Good afternoon and welcome to Today on Bay TV. I'm Gaynor Morgan and I'm joined today by the leader of the Conservative Party on Swansea City Council, Councillor Lyndon Jones. Thanks for joining us, Councillor. And also Swansea Rambler Andy Morgan. We've brought him in off the running track or the rambling track. And our very own Caitlin Harris. And I think, Caitlin, you're going to be telling us what happened on this day in history.
Yeah, we have a very entertainment sort of oriented on this day today. Today is the birthday of one of the best actors of our generation, really, Bill Murray. So it's his birthday today. I mean, obviously Bill Murray is known best for his comedic roles. I mean, he's been in Caddyshack, Ghostbusters, one of the leading films, Groundhog Day, and recently he's done a lot of Wes Anderson films. So going with Royal Tenenbaums, Moonrise Kingdom, and the Budapest Hotel.
Do we know how old he is even today?
I think so. He is 1950, so he'd be 67 today.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so
can we see him in action?
Yep, we have a clip ready for us.
You'll never be good if you don't know that you are.
When you get me angry, you've had a bad day. You're cranky? Good. Good. Ooh, angrier. Ooh, you're scaring me. Stop.
One of these men may save your life one of these days. You understand that?
Then again, maybe one of us won't.
We've been going about this all wrong. This Mr. Stay Puft is okay. He's a sailor. He's in New York.
Yeah. Are you a fan, Andy?
Yes, yeah. He's entertaining.
You need someone to make you smile, don't you?
Well, he's certainly been in quite a few films, yeah.
Do you have a particular favourite?
Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day. Groundhog Day is good.
I like Ghostbusters, but there we go.
Ghostbusters would be mine as well.
What else we got, Caitlin?
Today is the day in 1937 when J.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit was published.
All right.
So one of the first modern fantasy books that has affected so much of culture at this point.
Yeah, the way we think and the way we talk and a lot of our references, yeah? Are you fans?
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's certainly, and getting people to read as well, children to read is very important.
I mean, it started off as bedtime stories. He was reading, well, he wasn't reading, he was creating for his son. He was coming up every night with these stories. And it's reported that he decided to finally write this book about The Hobbit because his son kept coming with, oh, well, Dad, last night you said the door was green, or, oh, but you said his beard was this colour. So he was like, well, right, I better just write it down. So it's consistent. And then it was The Hobbit, and then I think it was something like 20 years later he decided to return to Middle-earth to write Lord of the Rings. So they're very different stories. You know, The Hobbit is intended.
He's given some of the royalties to that son, but...
Oh no, the Tolkien estate does keep a tight grip on the work, so it's good.
Have we got anything to see?
Yes, we do have a clip for The Hobbit.
Oh, right. Absolutely true. It's a wonderful clip, isn't it?
And where that's set in the film, the Shire, supposedly a lot of it is based around the Welsh Hills.
All right.
The Hobbit is a great walking book, I suppose. So it's full.
Do you agree, Andrew?
Oh, yes, I'd love to go walking in that area. I don't want to meet some of the creatures there.
Yeah, walking in a whimsical world. What else have we got, Caitlin?
So we have more literary news today. We have the birth of Stephen King. So going from light children's stories to very horror-centric, I suppose. So he was born in 1947, and he has affected horror. It's a genre like no one else, really.
Carrie and those sort of films come to mind. Not a great fan. I like to be jollied out of everyday life.
I think Carrie is a pretty black sort of film, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Black movie, so yeah.
Well, Bill Murray.
Well, recently we've had quite a lot of adaptations of King's work sort of making their way back into cinema. I think we have a clip of one of the recent adaptations today.
is all that stands between light and darkness. For thousands of generations, the gunslingers were knights, sworn to protect it. Now I'm the only one left. The tower will fall. Get used to the carnage. Now the wars come to Earth.
Well, you wouldn't want to happen upon that, would you, Andrew, when you're rambling?
No, I like to keep it simple. You know, a few cows, some bulls, but nothing like that.
Well, cows and bulls can be frightening enough. Cows often more so than bulls. Well, where have you been lately?
Saturday we went to Llangain and had a walk. That's near Carmarthenshire. Rain came down halfway around.
It's stair odds at points that day, wasn't it?
It was, yes, it was. Sunday then we went to Merthyr Tydfil, see the ironworks, go up to Morlais Castle, which people don't even realise is there, which is lovely.
No, I didn't know anything about Morlais Castle.
Yeah, you can't really see it. The only bit that really exists now is underground. There's a beautiful crypt which you don't expect there. The rest is next to a golf course and a quarry, and you can't see anything. It's got to be pointed out to you.
I actually wouldn't have thought of Merthyr Tydfil in rambling terms.
It's beautiful. Absolutely stunning scenery. This is what we were saying on Sunday. There's all the poverty done in the town, and they got all this natural resource which people need to take them out and walk them. It's wonderful up there.
Of course, it was the biggest town in Wales at one point, wasn't it? In the height of the Industrial Revolution.
We actually went into the ironworks. The remains of there. We sort of walked in the darkness, and you know, it's amazing what was there and now what's gone.
And such an important part of our history as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. But do you come into contact with the Ramblers and walking much in your role?
I've been doing a lot actually as a councillor in Bishopston. We were talking about it earlier about actually getting a number of the footpaths repaired and so on, and a number of one was flooded, and we've sorted that by organising a soakaway, because it is important to get people back you know, walking. I know from my point of view, most of my walking is done delivering leaflets, but so it wouldn't be any good in the areas that you're talking about. But walking, really beautiful. And actually, when you talk about Merthyr and the valleys, there's a lot of beautiful countryside now, and it's now that it's
but given the pressures on local government, how high up among the priorities facing Swansea City Council are clear footpaths, for example?
Yeah, but it's also a role for the community council as well, and it is important that they are kept clear. And very often, if they're done frequently, it's not a great cost either, because it's just a small amount of work, but it is important that the work is done.
So if you were to have issues, Andrew, with a footpath not being open, or you can't get over a stile or something, it's the community council you go to.
Well, the community council and your city council or town city council as well, because some footpaths are run by the City and County of Swansea in this area, and others by local community councils and so on. I know in Bishopston's case, the community council have a footpaths officer, or one of the councillors who takes charge of that. I actually walked those paths with him the other day to see what they were like, and some were run by the city council, some by the community council.
This is it. The council has the rights of way department specifically for rights of way, and they maintain that, and they have a duty to maintain the paths. And as Lyndon says, some of that's designated to the communities, which is great, because it's a community path first and foremost for the community use. So the community takes ownership of it, keeps it clear.
Are we going to have an opportunity to have a glimpse of what you've been doing would you?
If we got the Llangain one, which would be very nice, because we go and see some standing stones, and if that is available, we'll go into that now.
Where are we here?
So this is a woodland trust property, very popular with dog walkers from Carmarthen. And you go up, you see the views.
Is this Llangain where you were there?
This is Llangain. Now, this is Greencastle Woods, a woodland trust property just outside Llangain. It's a little bit muddy, but it was dry for three-quarters of the walk.
Are those sticks or Nordic poles?
Sticks.
Right.
Yeah, Nordic poles are for different movements, but these are actually just to support you when you walk. Now, this says Greencastle Woods, and it's actually the Wales Coast Path, because with the Wales Coast Path, you've got to go up 3 estuaries in Carmarthenshire. So it actually goes all the way into Carmarthen, comes back down the other side of the river, and joins the Woodland Trust property here. So we've dropped down to a lovely little dell with the cascade, and see, a little bit muddy, but it's dry. We've come up now, and you see the estuary behind. That's about the only view you see of the water. and we're heading now towards Llangain.
Yes, and you can see that it has been wet, but I think it was quite dry for you there, wasn't it?
Quite dry, but it did absolutely pour down a little bit later.
Yeah. Well, that was a nice glimpse of a nice day out, wasn't it? So,
yes, and of course we've got them every Saturday, so if people want to come, just come along.
Just Google you. Yes. Well, thanks all. We've had a good run around what went on in history, and after the break we'll be talking newspapers. So. Welcome back to Today on Bay TV. I'm Gaynor Morgan. With me is the leader of the Conservative group in Swansea, Councillor Lyndon Jones, and also, I think, President of the Welsh Conservative Party in Wales, yes?
That's right, as of a few weeks ago.
Also, Andrew Morgan of the Ramblers and our own Caitlin Harris. And I think you've been digging through the papers, haven't you?
Quite a lot on the papers today. We're starting off with The Times and Theresa May's speech to the UN. She made a very concerted effort as the leader of the UK to talk about the failings of the UN towards world leaders, and we do have a clip of her speech going forward.
Yes, it was quite a compelling speech. I think it's perhaps ruffled a few feathers. I don't know if it's a good time to be a Conservative councillor, is it?
Oh, it's always a good time to be a Conservative, yes.
Perhaps we can hear from your leader.
And the effectiveness of its delivery. When the need for multilateral action has never been greater, the shortcomings of the UN and its institutions risk undermining the confidence of states as members and donors. Even more importantly, they risk the confidence and faith of those who rely upon the blue helmets, who rely upon that sign I stand in front of today, coming to their aid in the darkest of hours.
Pretty blunt there, Councillor Jones?
I think sometimes you need to be blunt and say it as it is. I think some countries, and the UN need to do a lot more, and they have a role to play, and they can take that role. I think the world is a more dangerous place today than it's ever been.
Arguably, we need the UN more than ever.
We see that every day.
What are the shortcomings in your view?
Well, I think where some things happen, like in Iran, we've seen, and in North Korea and so on, things, and they could really take a bit of a lead, and they're not. And with the Americans taking a bit of a step back in some cases, I think there is a role for the UN.
What could the UN do in North Korea?
Well, they could help negotiations to start with, they've sent troops into other. We wouldn't be sending troops into North Korea, obviously, but they have sent troops in when there are problems in various countries. And I think it is important that they take a lead, and then it's not just, say, Britain or America, but it is the UN taking a lead and not individual countries. And I think it's a collective.
Which countries do you think need to step up to the plate a bit more?
Well, you often find that France is one country that hasn't always done what it could, and you've also got a situation where when you've got America, as I say, saying they're stepping back a little bit, so there is a gap, and we need somebody to fill that gap, and the UN should be the organisation to do that. Theresa
May was looking very prime ministerial there. Do you think she's succeeding in grabbing the headlines back from our Boris?
Well, I think she is the Prime Minister, as Boris has said. She is the Prime Minister. He will be with her tomorrow. He's been in Cabinet with her today to listen to the speech, or go through the speech that she's going to make tomorrow.
It would be a fly on the wall, wouldn't it?
Well, it would be interesting. It certainly would be. But
would they share a 7-hour flight going somewhere?
Yeah, I just wonder what they're talking about. Yeah. And they're obviously off to Florence tomorrow.
Yes, interesting times. So what's your take on it, Andrew?
Well, it is very worrying with North Korea. This is an unstable place, really. And they're not under control. And the problem with the UN is it's about 5 players control the whole UN. One of them being China, and China being friends with North Korea. So it's difficult to put any sanctions on unless China's on board as well.
But it's in China's interest, isn't it, to control?
Yes. Well, anything in that area is going to affect them, especially if it's a nuclear problem. It affects the whole area, so
affects the whole planet, doesn't it?
To stand up and tell them.
It's a very worrying time.
Caitlin, I'm sure whatever you've got next on your list is worrying as well.
Well, it's moving much more local, so from potentially North Korea to Port Talbot, actually. From the BBC, we have Stephen Kinnock arguing about new plans for the prison that was intended for Port Talbot. So the plan for the prison was that it was intended to be placed at the Baglan Industrial Park.
Where does he want it?
But Stephen Kinnock argues that it would potentially be better to move it to Swansea's Fellandale Business Park.
Perhaps we'll hear from Stephen Kinnock himself.
Tonight was about raising awareness and updating the public on what our elected representatives have, the information they've managed to find out so far and the difficulties they are coming up against, and as chair of the prison group, for people to understand what our anxieties are about a prison coming to the area. I think we've sort of did a good synopsis of those points tonight. And I think what came across from the meeting after everybody had spoken is the fact that people are angry that Port Talbot has been chosen as the proposed site for this prison. As somebody pointed out earlier in the evening, there are no historical ties to jails or prisons in this area. And as the Ministry of Justice also pointed out, out of the 6 prisons proposed, to be built in the next few years, 5 of those are actually on Ministry of Justice land where there are actually prisons. So for Port Talbot to be chosen, we just don't understand.
I think people are very, very angry, very frustrated. They feel that this process is just beyond their control, that there's no logic in having the site here. The Velindre site makes so much more sense for so many reasons, all the reasons that I went through in my presentation and that we then discussed. I think people, though, did appreciate the fact that the 3 officials from the Ministry of Justice came. They had the courage to stand up, to face the music, to face the heat. I think people are very unimpressed with the Minister, Sam Guimard, who I've invited on 3 separate occasions to come down and engage with the community, and he's failed to do so, and rather than do that, he passed the hot potato to his more junior officials, and I think that's not acceptable.
Of course, it would be almost next to the new school, wouldn't it, and the hospital? But is there a bit of NIMBYism there?
I think it is a bit. You know, to be honest, the other site he mentions is Velindre, and I think probably Velindre has a lot more uses because you could get private housing being built there. It's been talked about a parkway station in Velindre. But I think obviously there will be a proper consultation, and that's happening. It hasn't the final.
You just want to input all of it,
Well, that's right.
But I think the broader point is that, it's a strange way of putting it, but we haven't got enough prisoners in Wales to fill these prisons. We'd be bringing a lot of people in from England, wouldn't we? And into the proposed one in North Wales.
But it will create jobs as well, locally, and you can't sort of deny that, and that's obviously good for the local economy.
We want more prisoners to create jobs.
This prison is intended to have about 1,600 new prisoners in the area. And talking about NIMBYism, the Plaid AM in the area, Adam Price, actually called out Stephen Kinnock at his behaviour and called him the Grand Archduke of NIMBYism. It's quite intense.
Yeah. It's a wonderful quote, whether it's true or not.
In terms of, people have raised concerns over the prison being built in their houses and schools. So
I think wherever it's built, if it was built in Velindre, you've got the same thing, because you're very close to Langavella. There are schools
very rural area, isn't it? It's a very traditional area. I mean.
But that space could be used for far more things, I think. But it is a bit NIMBYism. It's not gone through all the final processes yet, but it will. We need more prisons.
Certainly, some of the ones we've got are not fit
sadly,
for purpose.
But they will create jobs as well, and you can't.
What else have we got?
Well, we are staying in Port Talbot, and the Evening Post has an article on this today about the Tata Steel merger with ThyssenKrupp Steel. So there is a lot of discussion about the merger with ThyssenKrupp and what good it will do for the steel industry.
Well, it should guarantee nearly 4,000 jobs in Port Talbot, shouldn't it? Yeah,
we have a clip of people discussing the merger. Okay, so if we get that now.
That's the merger with ThyssenKrupp.
More about what you create as a value from coming together, what new products you can bring to the markets, what are the new things that you are able to offer to the customers, better service levels, better delivery, better compliance. All these are the right things to talk about.
Port Talbot has been loss-making for quite some time. The restructurings in the last years led to a situation that they're now money-making again. the pension issue. Related to Port Talbot is the big BSPS pension.
And of course, a critical test of all this is the refining of Blast Furnace 5, isn't it? I think that brings the steelworks into the modern era, doesn't it?
I think it's back into profit. I think the thing is to ensure that we keep as many jobs as possible in Port Talbot.
I do like to see it on the skyline, I have to say. It's very important. Thank you all. After the break, Rachel will be here with Choir Works.
and welcome back to Today on Bay TV. I'm Rachel Hopkins and I'm joined by Karen Jenkins and Ross Evans from Swansea Music Unit. Hello both, thank you for joining us today.
Hello.
And you're here to talk to us about choir works, aren't you?
That's right.
Yeah, so Karen, just briefly tell us what choir works is.
Well, we are part of the Swansea Music Unit. It's the county music service for the City and County of Swansea. And it's very exciting for us to launch Choir Works, which is basically a youth choir for the students in the schools in the City County of Swansea. So we're here to talk about that, and Ros here is one of the professional musicians, teachers with Swansea Music Unit, and is going to be leading the workshop.
That's very exciting. And it's been relaunched, isn't it? So there was a brief time when it wasn't happening?
Well, the music making within the under the Youth Arts Wales pyramid that we operate for the music services, we've got lots of choirs and bands and things like that, but the youth choir hasn't been operating for some time. We've had choral works, and of course the choir in schools in Swansea have been really well flourished, but no, it's new for us. So, and it's starting next Saturday.
Next Saturday?
Yes, next Saturday.
And what age range?
14 to 18, so we're going for youngsters who have some choir experience to start with, but then the idea is, because we've got a scheme called the Play Along, Sing Along scheme that I've launched for the new service, because we've been in operation for 1 year now. I can't believe that it's gone so quickly, but we start in the second year of operation, and so the idea is that the Sing Along is to, over the next couple of years, to reach as many young people in Swansea, but we're starting with the older students for the moment, and students who have a bit of experience, and then we'll go down then to the primary area later on.
And if you're in that age bracket and the only experience you've got is singing in the shower or, and stuff, can they still come along?
Yes, I mean, the thing is, ideally, as long as they've had an experience of singing and school and things like that. Yes, absolutely. And we hope, they may be afraid that they can't read music at this stage. I wouldn't worry about that. Obviously, what we intend to be doing is to teach the students to read music in the schools where we teach first and foremost, and then inviting them along then to take part in the choirs. But we would like students to have had some choral experience singing in school, preferably, but the idea is to come and enjoy music, really.
And of course, youngsters love music, don't they? And really should have less inhibitions, because we learn our inhibitions the older we get, don't we? And this, I suppose, is learning music at a higher level, if you like, learning to read music, learning maybe to sing operatically.
I think what we're trying to do as well is we're trying to create an environment for the 14 to 18-year-olds whereby we're preparing them for the next step. So whether that means going into a national organisation like the National Youth Choir of Wales or National Youth Theatre where they may perform vocally, some of them are going to want to audition for conservatoires. Some of them are going to want to read music, whether as a module or pure music at university. And if there isn't that opportunity for them to have sung at a very high standard. The Swansea schools are incredible at providing that, but for example, not many of them will have yet developed the boys' voices which have broken, so they won't have had experience of singing in four parts, for example. So we're trying to nurture that talent as part of the education system, which has always been imperative in everybody's role as a singer, because it's not fair that when you go to university or a conservatoire, or even if you just enjoy music to a high standard when you leave school, if you want to sing in amateur dramatics, it's a lot more practical if you can read music, and you can get a lot more done, and you can get a lot more enjoyment, and you can make the standard at which you sing much higher if you actually are able to read music at grassroots level, if you see what I mean.
It is. Well, we're educators under the day, so it's like being in school and learning a skill like, obviously a language, French or German, Welsh, and so therefore that's what we aim to do, is reach those young people out there who love to sing, because we are the land of song. And so I think, for us, it's about as you say, having a quality education, isn't it, within music, which is what we're about. And our teachers, we've got some fantastic teachers in the team, and so that's the way we're going to look at it.
I always think when it comes to dancing, if you can do ballet, you can do any kind of dance. And again, if you come along to choir works and are able to do that, you could sing or do anything, isn't it?
You are right. It's about good practice and it's about vocal health. Now, I know that makes me sound a bit odd, but massive, because if I could reel off the number of professional pop and classical musicians who've had vocal problems, and I mean, that's going to stop you enjoying it anyway if you just feel rubbish after performance, notwithstanding the money you're going to lose if you're a professional.
And I think anybody that uses their voice, even if they're not using their voice to sing, needs to look after, their vocal health.
100%, 100%.
You need to have a toolkit, basically, because obviously within the setting that used to be West Glamorgan Music Service and now Swansea Music Service and Neath, we still work together, and the whole idea is, whether it's instrumental music or vocal, that you're giving them a toolkit in order to be able to get to the highest level.
You're a musician, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I'm a violinist, and so of that,
it's very difficult.
Yeah, all instruments are difficult. Everything's difficult at the beginning, but it's like anything. You start off, as long as you've got some sort of interest in it and you're keen on it.
I would love to be able to play an instrument as a child. Yes, you must. As a child, I loved it, and it wasn't nurtured. And I think it's just something so wonderful to be able. It's special to be able to do that.
Well, that's right. And there's, interestingly, as I mentioned earlier, the play along and sing along is a scheme that we've set up in the Swansea Music Unit, and the idea is that, with the nature of any education, there's an element of how much money it costs to put, especially instruments, into the system. And we've got the new scheme in the play along, where we're trying to teach whole class at year 3, the violin and sort of P-buzz are the new instruments, the precursor to brass instruments.
All right.
So there's lots of other things going on within this play along, sing along scheme. But with the choir works, the idea is that everyone's got a voice, and what we want to try and do over the next couple of years, starting with those, I suppose, in the sense that who have choir experience at this stage, is to develop that and then reach more and more and more people across the schools in Swansea.
And it is interesting because singing is the anomaly. I started off as a violinist, Karen, and I
know each other quite some time.
A very, very long time.
Hence the uniform.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how that happened. That's very odd.
We didn't read each other up this morning, to check what we were wearing.
I know. And, but a lot of singers, what they have is a gift, if you like. Now, musicians have a gift, of course they do, but they may not have, they have a gift which as yet hasn't been tapped into. So they may come to singing at 13 or 14 or 15 or 16, or like I did when I was 18. I didn't start doing anything.
Good age, isn't it?
Absolutely. But I had a musical background, so I could read music. But I think a lot of the youngsters, when they choose to take up singing, that is where they differ from their instrumental counterparts, because they will have already reached grade 5, or they will have had a lot of experience of playing in bands or brass bands or orchestras. But singers may not have had that. They will just have sung in the shower, literally. And somebody may have said to them one day, "You sound lovely. Have you thought about joining a choir or having your voice trained?"
And there's more and more sort of in the news about mental health issues with teenagers and children. This must be great and a great help. Because, of course, music and singing, and of course applying themselves to reading the music, as you say,
100%,
is all going to help on so many levels.
Well, also you learn to breathe as well,
of course,
from the diaphragm. Everything helps, whether it's social interaction, because you're meeting students. I mean, we didn't go to the same school, but we met because we met,
lifelong friends.
Playing in an orchestra, in West Glam Youth Orchestra, wasn't it, back in the day? And so therefore, well-being, and I know that Ros will talk about that as well, but for me, it is about, we're a community, aren't we? And very much
just going back to the event, just tell us a little bit more about the event so anybody watching can get involved.
OK, well, we're looking for students who are in Swansea schools, aged 14 to 18, as we've talked about. And it's on Saturday.
Yes.
On this Saturday, 9 till 1 in the Lord Mayor's reception room in the Brangwyn Hall. So, yes.
Very posh.
Yeah, I'll wear a chain.
Yes. We're very, very grateful because obviously this is part of the authority, the Swansea Council. So therefore, we utilise all the facilities as well as the schools.
Yes.
And then the idea is from that workshop then, next Monday, we launch the Youth Choir Centre at Bishopston Comprehensive, because all our music centres are placed at comprehensive schools around Swansea. So.
And a great social event, as you said, you've become lifelong friends because of this where you met. And of course, it's not always a given that people will have lots of friends in school. You know, not everybody's lucky enough. And of course, this is a chance for them to meet other people, grow in confidence, learn new skills.
I have to agree with you there, because one of my other professional hats, if you like, I run a choir for people living with dementia, and there we are. We all sit there. We're from different social backgrounds, different intellectual statuses, different social statuses, different intellects, different everything, and we're all standing there shoulder to shoulder.
Come back and tell us more about that, because that is fascinating. So we must have you back on soon. Good luck with it all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming to us, and thank you. We'll see you soon.
Welcome back to Today on Bay TV. I'm Gaynor Morgan. With me now are Kay and Jerry Lockett. And we're going to be talking down the caravan. Down the caravan. Kay, tell me more.
Well, basically, Down the Caravan is a comedy drama set in a caravan site in West Wales. It's something that I wrote 4 years ago. It's the first thing I've ever written. I joined a local adult education centre and did a course in creative writing. So part of one of the homework tasks we were set was to write something about a holiday or something we knew. So I wrote this, and then unbeknown to me, my husband printed it off. And
as you do.
As you do.
Yeah.
And he actually works as a driver for the TV and film industry. And he was picking up Matthew Rhys, the Welsh actor, that day. And he just passed it to Matthew in the car and said, would you mind having a look at this? And it's gone from there, hasn't it?
Yeah, and then Matthew rang me up a couple of weeks later and said, right, he said, I'm home. I'm working on a film at the moment down in Wales. I'm home in a couple of weeks' time. If you get a load of actors together from Wales which you think will fit the part, and we'll do a read-through in Pinewood in Cardiff.
Oh, what an accolade.
Yeah, it was amazing.
How did you break that news to Kay?
Well, I didn't tell Kay till we were having the read-through on the Sunday. I didn't tell her till the Friday before.
The Friday.
So you got the actors together, did you?
I got all the actors together.
Yeah. Oh, how did you feel then? Were you nervous?
I was really nervous. We filmed the read-through in Pinewood Studios in Cardiff, and there were all these people, you know, that I grew up watching them on TV, and I'm thinking, wow. I kept going to the toilet and coming back because I didn't know what to, because I was so nervous. But we had sort of a buffet and wine, so I had a couple of glasses of wine and I felt a little bit more relaxed. But yeah, they were just so lovely as well, because, you know, they weren't getting paid for this. They travelled, some of them further than West Wales to Cardiff to do this.
They believe in the project.
Yeah.
We need to cut to the chase a bit, because it's one thing writing, isn't it? I think, as we all know, that's almost the easy bit, not to take away from your talent. The problem now is just getting it out there, isn't it?
It is, and that's what we're doing now. We're crowdfunding, and basically the money that we raise will make a pilot so that we can then present that to commissioners and production companies.
It's £150,000.
It's surprising how expensive it is when you look at, you know, when you cut it all down. I mean, like I said, I've had no experience in the film industry, and now I understand it a bit better, how expensive.
And Jerry, that's with the actors giving of their time.
Yeah, we have a line producer who's come on board called Cheryl Davis, who's a very experienced line producer. She's done the budget for this. It's not just the filming of it. We got to, because we're filming down in Larne, we've got to have accommodation for all the actors. We've got accommodation for the crew, because we're going to have probably about 40 crew as well. We've got to feed them, so it's the caterers. We've got to have transport, we've got to have security, we've got to hire the equipment, the cameras, and then it's going, after it's all filmed, it's got to go then into the cutting room. So we got.
It's a huge gamble, but I think, as we might hear now in a minute, I think possibly starting with Matthew Rhys, you've got a lot of conviction behind you. I think Matthew Rhys really believes in the project.
Yeah, he did.
Hello, I'm Matthew Rhys. People are often telling me to go fund myself, at least I think that's what they're saying. But I've realised funding as an individual isn't half as successful as it is in a crowd. So I've joined Crowdfunder in order to raise money for Down the Caravan. That's not a caravan, that's a camper van, which is apt for me because people often say I am quite camp. But Down the Caravan is a ridiculously funny television pilot written by the ridiculously talented Kay Lockett. And we're raising money to make it, and hopefully in turn a television series. So if you like a good laugh like this, or like this, do as the Welsh Colliers did and dig deep, or far simpler, click on the link. Be a part of history. Fund Down the Caravan. I may not be very butch, but I know something funny when I see it.
Hello, I'm Melanie Walters, and I've joined crowdfunding to raise money to do a pilot, a very funny pilot called Down the Caravan, that is written by Kay Lockett, who is a very clever person. Now, I'm up here in front of a very big caravan, because I don't do things in half measures. Matthew Rhys, camper van, really? But although I've got a big one and Matthew's got a small one, our goal is the same. To raise money to make this pilot so others can see it, so they can cough up to make a TV series. Win-win. So please dig deep into your pockets or into somebody else's pocket, and please donate. Thank you for your time. Click on the link.
Hello there, I'm Stefan Rodri. Some of you might know me as my alter ego Dave Coaches. Alright, what's occurring? And if you do, then you'll also know that I'm partial to some caravan-based comedy. If you are, then you can do no better than support Down the Caravan, written by Jerry Lockett. It's a fantastic, hilarious, new situation comedy. And in order to get funding, please click on the link, the crowdfunding link, to support Down the Caravan. This is a caravan, by the way. Hang on in now. Ta-da.
So just to recap, we had Dave Coaches, Melanie Walters, and of course Matthew Rees.
Yeah.
I think they want a job, don't they?
They're all in it.
Yeah.
They've all got parts in it.
They're all a very deep conviction there.
Yeah.
You just couldn't have a better sort of accolade, really, could you? What form does this crowdfunding take? Who are you looking for? I mean, I know you want anyone, I suppose, to give you money, but are there particular people who will crowdfund pilots like this?
It's basically anybody who's interested in it and thinks they'd like to see it, especially people who've got a caravan themselves and they'd probably like to see something like this on the TV. It's anybody get involved, and also if people want to be an extra in it, if they donate, they can become an extra in it, and this can be, obviously, like Matthew said, become part of history. And it's going to be one I've worked on.
It is so much a part of our history, isn't it? I'm surprised. It's such an untapped resource in a sense, and yet almost everyone I know. I live very near Park Dean, Tracker Bay and Porthcawl, you know, and I mean, almost everyone I know sort of has some links.
So, yeah, it's massive in this country, and that's why I think it's going to be quite relatable for people that, you know, everyone's stayed in a caravan or knows family or friends that have. So.
But you've got a caravan in Larne,
We did. We had it for 4 years, and then our daughters grew up and sort of didn't want to come with mum and dad anymore. But it's something we're going to look back at.
I was going to ask, if this takes off, will you be able to show your face?
Maybe you have to go to a different part.
Yeah.
Have you? You've got to be careful now. Have you based it on real people? Or?
I would say about 50% of our observations as a couple or things that have actually happened to us. Because with a caravan community, it's funny. It's like when you have your neighbours at home. You go down your caravan on the weekend, and you've got your community of neighbours down there as well. And it's people from all walks of life, all ages.
And it's great community spirit, isn't it? The clubhouse and all that sort of thing.
And you do get little cliques as well, you know. You get your posh ones with the really fancy caravans, and then you get the ones like us, which is the house that Jack built like this. But, you know, and you get like a bit of the people in the statics of the posh ones, because, you know, obviously they have to pay their ground rent, and it's very...
and they got to flush on their toilets, and they got to probably shower.
They don't have to go trekking.
They don't have to rent the clubhouse.
That's of Undermilk Wood, isn't it? But set in a caravan park in the 21st century.
Yeah, really, I suppose so. Yeah, I'd never
Human
thought
nature,
about
I
that.
suppose, doesn't alter.
No, it doesn't.
How long did it take you to write?
Well, I wrote it, probably the bones of it, in an afternoon. But then over the years, I met a writer called Max Botkin, an American writer, who Jerry'd met on a film called Show Dogs. And he has been my mentor. He's been fantastic.
Oh, right.
So he was actually, we had a meeting, and he suggested making one of the main characters an American, which I've written in. And I would send my stuff to Max, and he'd be like, yeah, because he would like sort of have a look through and say maybe this doesn't work or maybe this would, and it's been like a long, you know,
I'm sure it's going to take off, and your problem then will be finding sequels and ideas for you. So you'll have to get a caravan. Not in Larne, somewhere else.
Yeah, get inspiration.
Just quickly in the last few seconds, I'm sure we've all been inspired by this. What do you want people to do?
Basically, if you go on crowdfunding Down the Caravan, and it's literally there, it'll explain everything. You click on the link, and then you can make a donation, big or small. It all helps, and it would just be fantastic.
Crowdfunding. Down the caravan, have your credit card ready.
Yeah.
And who knows, you'll be part of history.
Exactly, and we've got a great main actress, American lady, who I've just worked on a film called Say My Name. She was the main actress, called Lisa Brenner.
Thank you. To hear more about that, thanks to all our guests today. Next on Bay TV, we have our afternoon matinee. Not quite sure what it was, but it's going to be very good. Perhaps the 1961 crime drama Freedom to Die, starring Paul Maxwell. So we look forward to that. Be Down the Caravan next.
Thank you.